Hey, Magic fans. Welcome back. This is your captain speaking here at Capnclydes MTG. I made it home. The flight was awful. My back hurts. I'm all stiff. But hey, I made it in time to actually make the video. We only had a couple spoilers the other day, so I didn't want to go through all the hubbub with all the work I had to do. Sorry about that. But with all that said and done, all the rest of the Wild Eldraine stuff got spoiled today, mostly common, so we'll run through that really quick before we get to the good stuff. And then moving forward, we'll start looking at individual commander decks that have been spoiling not only the new cards, but the whole deck in general. So before we get started, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Keeps us sponsor free and all the silliness off the channel. So let's get into it, starting with the common cards from the set. Crystal Grotto gets a reprint. Basic card, enters the battlefield. You get to scry one, taps for a color. It mana filters for one. Pretty good card. Only really good for mono fixing and limited, but hey, it is what it is. Then we have a Titanic Growth reprint, +4/+4 for 2. For green and 1, we have the Toadstool Admirer. This is a new card. 1 green, 1 war, 2. Green and 3, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Another decent card for limited. Verdant Outrider, green and 2. For your basic 4/2, that can have the ability to not be blocked by creatures power 2 or less. So, eh. And the Scarecrow Guide. 2 colors for a 2/1 with reach, and it can filter mana one mana once per each turn. So some good stuff getting put in there, showing us limited mana options and so forth. We have Leaping Ambush. That's funny. 1 green, target creature gets +1/+3, gains reach to the end of turn. You untap it. Combat Trick. Good for limited. Red Tooth Genealogist. Green and 2 for a 2/3. Enters the battlefield. You get a Royal Roll token attached to another target creature control. That creature has Ward 1 +1/+1. We have Spider Food. That's a fairy. Almost said it was Rankle. Green and 2 sorcery. You store up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Create a food. That's very interesting. This is a new take on the same mana spell that does the exact same thing, except it doesn't give you a food. But this one's a sorcery, so even though it's the same cost, it is a little worse, but it will still see play in limited. Territorial Witchstalker. So green and 1 for a 2/3 defender beginning of combat on your turn. If you control a creature power 4 or greater, the Witchstalker gets +1/+0 to the end of turn and can attack as though it did not have defender. That sounds like a reprint, but don't quote me on that one. Next we have Curse of the Werefox. Green and 2 sorcery. Create a monster roll token attached to a creature you control. When you do, that creature fights another target creature. So it gives +1/+1 in trample, and it's a fight spell for removal, so kind of on par, good for limited. Ferocious Werefox, green and 3 for a 4/3 at trample. It also has a venture for a green and 1. You create a monster roll token, which is +1/+1 in trample, so that's really good for limited. Hamlet Glutton, 2 green and 5 for a 6/6 bargain. The spell costs 2 less if you bargain, so you could actually, for 5 mana, get a 6/6 with trample, and when it enters the battlefield, gain 3 life. So you could use a food token that you would normally sacrifice for 3 life and use it for mana reduction and still get your 3 life out of it. Great card for limited. Hollow Scavenger, green and 2 for a 3/2. Sacrifice a food, it gets +2/+2 to end a turn. You can only do it once a turn. For 1 green, create your food. That's going to be great for limited, especially in food decks in general. Probably a lot of good commander stuff going on here. Next, we have the Skewerslinger. Might as well just call it food fight. Anyway, why is it a dwarf? Anyhow, red and 1 for a 1/3 with reach. Skewerslinger blocks or becomes block. It deals 1 damage to that creature. Well, they're really reaching for some stuff now. Anyway, Witch's Mark, red and 1. You may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. It's a sorcery. And you get a Wicked Roll token, which is +1/+1. And when the aura goes to the graveyard, each opponent loses a life. So, interesting take on some draw spells. Bestial Bloodline, green and 1. Enchant creature gets +2/+2. Green and 4. You can return it from your graveyard to your hand. Great for limited. A way to pump up your creatures, plus never lose it. Commune with Nature. This is your normal reprint, literally. 1 green, look at the top 5 cards. You get a creature from among them, put it in your hand. Rest on the bottom in a random order. Yeah, not too bad. Next we have Kindled Heroism. 1 red, instant, +1/+0, gains first strike, scry 1. New name for the same old combat trick for limited. We have Merry Bards, red and 2 for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 1 colorless. If you do, create a young hero role token attached to it. If it does, it gets +1/+1, and if that creature has 3 or less toughness when you attack, you get to put a counter on it. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't get +1/+1, but if the creature's toughness is 3 or less, it gets a +1/+1 counter. Sorry about that. Uh, we have Minecart Daredevil. That's pretty funny. Red and 2 for a 4/2. Good rate for a limited card. Also has Ride the Rails as an adventure. Red and 1. Target creature gets +2/+1 to enter turn. Good combat trick there as well. Gonna see good limited play. We have Red Cap Thief. Red and 2 for a 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Good filler for limited. Next we have Bespoken Battle Garb. Bespoke Battle. Anyway, it's a red and 1 for artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. Has celebration, which means if 2 more non-land permanents have entered the battlefield at the beginning of your combat, you may attach it to up to 1 target creature you control, or just equip it for 2. But still, pretty decent. Edgewall Pact, we have a red and 3 for a 3/3 with Menace, already a good rate. When it enters the battlefield, you also get a 1/1 black rat token. So 4 mana for 4/4 worth of power and toughness and Menace. That's going to be an amazing card for limited. Gnawing Crescendo. Anyway, red and 2 instant. Creatures you control get +2/+0 to enter turn. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies this turn, you get a 1/1 black creature instead. Pretty good card. Probably just limited play because you'd really want to play this in some kind of weird aristocrats deck, but that deck's normally black-white, doesn't have too much red, but hey, who knows? Might see it in there. Next, we have the Grabby Giant. Sounds like my friends when we were younger. Anyway, red and 3 for a 4/3 with reach. Now, for red and 2, you can sacrifice an artifact or a land to draw a card. That's a lot. That's really good, and a lot of good stuff going on there for 4 mana. Also, you have the adventure side of it, which is, that's mine. Red and 1, you get to create a treasure token, which either get this out sooner or let you sack it later for 3 to draw a card. This seems like a premium pick for red in limited. Next, we have the Stingblade Assassin, black and 3 for flash and flying for a 3/1, not terrible. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. That's okay. We have Sugar Rush, black and 1. Target creature gets +3/+0 to end a turn. Draw a card. Good combat trick, replaces itself. I like it. Wicked Visitor, black and 1 for your basic 2/2. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into the graveyard from battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. Whew, that's going to be very popular. Anyway, Bellowing Bruiser, red and 4 for a 4/4 with haste. Not bad for 5, but it also has Beat a Path as an adventure side of it for a red and 2. Up to 2 target creatures can't block this turn. That's very, we'll say, situational. Just the 5 mana 4/4 haster may be good enough to make it play. And the other side of it, as far as the adventure goes, it may come in handy. So probably a decent limited card. Next, we have the Fell Horseman, black and 3 for a 3/3. When it dies, you put it in the bottom of the owner's library. Not terrible. It also has the Deathly Ride adventure side of it for a black and 1. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. That looks like a premium card for limited to keep the beats going. High Fade Negotiator, 2 black and 3 for a 3/5 flyer. Has bargain. When it enters the battlefield, if you bargained, each opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life. Not terrible. We have Minestrosity. I don't understand that. Oh, Mint Astrosity. I thought it was Minestrosity, like minestrone. Anyway, Mint Astrosity, black and 1 for a 3/1. When it dies, you create a food token. That is a premium card right there. That's really good. Shatter the Oath, 2 black and 3 for a sorcery. Destroy target creature or enchantment. Create a wicked roll token attached to 1 target creature control. So one thing I want to point out about this card that's got my attention is this is a black card that kills enchantments again. This is only the second black card ever printed that can deal with an enchantment. This is not normally what you get. And the only drawback is it costs 5 mana. The previous card was a black and 1, and you had to lose life equal to the mana cost value of the card. Um, and that was, I guess, the exchange for it being cheap. But to be fair, like, this card should be in every commander deck that's playing black that needs to deal with enchantments, because worst case scenario, they don't have an enchantment. So you just kill a creature. Like, it's still playable without the drawback. This card seems really good, and I'm surprised they did this again. They're really messing up the color pie. But anyway, next we have the Tenacious Tomb Seeker, blue and 2 for a 3/2 with bargain. When it enters the battlefield, if it was bargain, return target instant sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. That's going to see a lot of commander play. Vantress Transmuter, blue and 3 for a 3/4 vanilla, but it does have an adventure, which is Croaking Curse. Uh-oh. Blue and 1, tap target creature, create a cursed roll token. Attached to it, it becomes a 1/1. This is premium removal and threat density for blue, which blue desperately needs in limited. Arete's Whisper, I think that's how you say the name. Anyway, black and 3, sorcery. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Make a wicked roll token attached to up to 1 target creature you control. Enchant creatures +1/+1 if it goes to the graveyard. If the enchantment goes to the graveyard, they lose a life. Seems okay. Basic discard spell for 4 with a little bonus on it. Maybe playable. Next, we have Feed the Cauldron. Straight from the story where Kellen shoved the old witch in the cauldron. Black and 2 instant. Destroy target creature, mana value 3 or less. If it's your turn, create a food token. Very interesting. It's probably going to see some limited play, but for 3 mana, it has a lot of drawbacks, which may make it hard to use. Because it does say mana value. Next, we have Merfolk Coralsmith. Blue and 2 for this 2/3. For 1 colorless, it gets +1/-1 until the end of turn. And when it dies, you get to scry 2. Pretty good for limited. Misleading motives, or I'm sorry, misleading motes. Motes. Anyway, blue and 3 instant. Target creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. Basic tempo card. Different name. Abaria's Attendance. Blue and 4 for 3/4 flyers, which is decent. But it also has Desperate Parry. A blue and 1 target creature control. Target creature gets -4/-0 to end a turn. Kind of a combat trick. I mean, if you got nothing else, it's something to do in blue for limited. Stormkel Prowler. That's a hell of a gem she's toting. Anyway, blue and 1 for a 2/1. Whenever you cast a spell, mana value 5 or greater, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Stormkel Prowler. That's very interesting. Not something blue is known for, making big mana spells. I mean, they can be, but normally it's more tempo-based counter spells that don't cost 5. But I mean, 2/1 for 2 is still just fine. If you get the bonus off and start making it big, that's even better. Limited card at best. Next, we have the Unassuming Sage. White and 1 for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 colorless. If you do, they get a Sorcerer roll token where it has +1/+1, and whenever it attacks, scry 1. So for 2 mana, or you get a 2/2 vanilla. For 4 mana, you get a 3/3 that lets you scry when you attack or another creature. Seems really good for limited. Archive Dragon, 2 blue and 4. New dragon for the dragon deck. It's a 4/6 flyer. Ward 2. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. I mean, I've seen worse. Balluna's Gatekeeper, blue and 5 for a 6/5. That's a lot. It does have an adventure, though. Blue and 1. Return target creature card you don't control. Mana value 3 or less to its owner's hand. That could be playable in limited and maybe other formats. But probably just limited. Diminisher Witch. Blue and 2 for a 3/2 with bargain. When Diminisher Witch enters the battlefield, if it was bargain, create a cursed roll token attached to target creature and opponent controls, which obviously turns it into a 1/1 with no abilities. So, not bad for blue. All right, we have Savior of the Sleeping, a white and 2 for this 2/3 with Vigi. Whenever an enchantment you control is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on the Savior. This is going to be a very powerhouse card in limited. All the roll tokens are all enchantments, so it basically means any creature that dies that has a roll token on it's going to give this thing +1/+1, plus other enchantments, yada, yada, yada. This is going to be a powerhouse in limited. Slumbering Keep Guard, 1 white for a 1/1. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. Wow. White and 2, it gets +1/+1 in a turn for each enchantment you control. Holy cow. So white's going to be doing the enchantment thing again. This card is also a powerhouse for limited and will probably get out of hand quick. Stockpiling Celebrant, white and 2 for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may return another target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. If you do, scry 2. Man, that's really good. For limited. Toonvale Guide, white and 3 for a 2/3 flyer, has Celebration, so if 2 other permanents come into play in the same turn, it gets +1/+0 and lifelink. Not terrible. Next we have Moment of Valor, white and 2. Instant, you get to choose one. Untap a target creature, gets +1/+0, gains indestructible, or destroy target creature power 4 or greater. Good removal spell for white. Got a little bit of flavor to it. Be good and limited. Plunge into Winter, white and 1 instant. Tap up to one target creature, scry 1, then draw a card. Wow, it slices and dices and makes julienne fries. Good card, good tempo card for white. Protective Parents, white and 2 with 3/2. When Protective Parents dies, you create a young hero role token attached to another creature, which is whenever this creature attacks, if its toughness is 3 or less, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it. Pretty good for white. Rhyme for Reindeer, white and 3 for a 3/4. When an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, tap target creature an opponent controls. That's going to be really good for white. Man, white seems really powerful. All right, next we have Archons Glory, 1 white with bargain. Target creature gets +2/+2 to end a turn. If you bargain it, it also gains flying and lifelink. Neat. We have Cooped Up, a white and 1. Enchanted creature can't attack or block. For a white and 2, you exile that creature. Pacifism Plus, not too terrible. Frostbridge Guard, white and 1 for this 2/2. For a white and 2, you can tap target creature. That's will be playable, but it's awful expensive. We have the Hopeful Vigil, white and 1 enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 knight with vigilance. Already great. When the vigil is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, scry 2. You can sacrifice it for 3. This is a great card. This is going to see a lot of play in white with all their enchantment shenanigans because it gives you the creature, plus you get the enchantment, plus you can sack it when you don't need it to scry, or if you sack it for something else, like to bargain something, you get to scry. Like, this seems like a real powerhouse card for white. I like Hopeful Vigil. All right, on to the Glory Days, or should I say the Courage Days. So we have Virtue of Courage, 2 red and 3 enchantment mythic. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, you may exile that many cards from the top of your library. You may play those cards this turn. Hell of an enchantment, but it's also an adventure. Ember Blaze, red and 1. It deals 2 damage to any target. This is a powerhouse mythic that's going to see lots of play in limited, maybe older formats. 5 mana may be a bit much, but I mean, 2 mana to deal 2 damage is just amazing. This is definitely going to be a high-powered standard card. I guarantee it. Next, we have Gumdrop Poisoner, 2 black and 2 for a 3/2 with lifelink, and when it enters the battlefield, target creature gets -X, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. Plus, for 1 black, you can just make a food. So if you, for, a little extra mana, if you've gained life this turn, you literally can just kill something. This is an amazing rare. It's going to be great in food decks. Probably going to be a powerhouse in standard, with the whole food shenanigans coming back. And in the older food decks as well, especially Commander. Next, we have Virtue of Strength. Oh, so there's going to be a Virtue for every color. This ought to be interesting. 2 green and 5. If you tap a basic land for mana, it produces 3 times as much mana instead. Yeah, this is going to be a $40 card. Because it also has Garenbrig Grove, an adventure for 1 green. Return target creature or land card from your graveyard to your hand. With people milling and everything, getting cards back from the graveyard. This is going to be very expensive, especially for Commander. And there will be shenanigans with this in many formats, especially Standard, I think. Because getting 3 times the mana, even though it costs 7 to get out, there's ways you can get this out and then really abuse your mana when it happens. But you got to remember, it says basic land, not all land. So if you're not playing basics, this isn't really going to do a lot for you. Just try to keep that in mind, guys. Next, we have Emodans Recruiter, a red and 2 for a 2/2. Enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste. So that includes this thing. So when it comes into play as a 3/2 haster. As a sorcery, you get a white and 4. You get to make 2 2/2 white knights with vigilance. Probably good for limited. Good all-around card. A lot of filler space. I like it. Next, we have Quick Study. We finally got it, guys. A blue and 2 card that lets you draw 2 cards at instant speed. The power creep has arrived. Before you know it, it'll be 2 mana as a sorcery to draw 2 cards with no drawbacks. Boy, it's going to get out of hand quick. But anyway, this is a great card. This is probably going to be a card that's going to be amazing in Pauper. Next, we have Woodland Aculite, a white and 2 for this 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. Oh my god, stop with this already. White's not supposed to be drawing cards like this. This is already amazing. Plus, it has an adventure for 1 green, which is Mend the Wilds. Put target permanent card from your graveyard on top of your library. So just imagine playing 4 of these things, and you start going Mend the Wilds, cast it, Mend the Wilds, put the Woodland Acolyte on top of my deck, cast the Acolyte, draw the other Acolyte, block, put it in the graveyard, next turn, draw my card, Mend the Wilds, put it on top, cast the Acolyte, draw a card. This has got to get out of hand so fast. Oh boy. But it's good. What can I say? All right, you got some nerve. We are finally at the end of all this, and there's only 1 card left to see how ballsy they want to be about their reprints, and that card is Waste Not. Now, first off, I love Waste Not. I think it's a great card. It is very niche, but it was fun to play. I liked it a lot. I liked to play it when it first came out. Had a lot of fun with it. So it's not really going to upset anybody, though, because it is kind of a niche card, not worth a whole lot. But it is cool to see it get a reprint. So it looks like they pretty much just kind of gave us the shellacking right up front and just blatantly said, hey, look what we're doing. When they showed us all the reprints of all the stuff that was in Commander Masters and now in this set. So I guess it is what it is, and we'll just leave it at that. But at the end of the day, like I said, that is all for this set. We've now seen all the cards. We'll go through the Commander stuff starting tomorrow, and who knows? I think the set's going to be great, but the way Wizards is going right now and everybody being very wary of how they're doing their business, just because the set's good doesn't mean it's going to sell well. And even if it does sell halfway decent, I don't think it's going to have the investment from everybody. But, again, that's yet to be seen. So, without further ado, don't forget, guys, until next time, be kind. And as always, I hope to see you across from the game table.